The 80s was a great decade for science fiction. You had all these advances in technology, so movies started looking better and better. Honestly, when you watch some of these today, the visuals still hold up, better than a lot of stuff you get now. Obviously, the 80s had giant classics like Blade Runner, Back to the Future, Aliens, stuff that everybody knows. Movies got smarter, stories got deeper, visuals got way more creative. Even the cheesy ones were just pure fun. If you're a sci-fi fan and you want to dig a little deeper than just the obvious ones everyone's seen, well, this list should help you find something good. Before The Truman Show or Black Mirror, there was Death Watch, and honestly, it's kind of wild how ahead of its time this movie was. It's set in a future where people don't really die from illness anymore, so naturally, TV execs come up with the worst idea possible: broadcasting someone's actual death for entertainment. Romy Schneider plays Catherine, a woman who's terminally ill, and she doesn't even know she's being filmed. Harvey Keitel's character has camera lenses implanted in his eyes so he can secretly record her last days for a reality show. And of course, the worse she feels, the higher the ratings go. It's a super uncomfortable premise, but that's the point. It's not just reality TV gone wrong, it's about how far media will go to turn suffering into entertainment. The movie had some early buzz. It competed for the Golden Bear at Berlin and got a few awards nominations in France. Romy Schneider is amazing in it, and Harvey Keitel is low-key incredible too. Plus, you've got Harry Dean Stanton and Max von Sydow showing up, always a win. Before Inception made dream-hopping cool, there was this. Dennis Quaid plays Alex Gardner, a psychic who's basically using his powers to scam people until the government ropes him into this secret project. One where they can enter people's dreams. At first it's harmless, then someone tries to assassinate the president inside his dream, and things get messy real fast. The movie's got this fun blend of sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and somehow it all works. It's got a real old-school B-movie charm, but it's smarter than it looks. Plus, it's got some surprisingly sharp takes on government experiments and paranoia, very Cold War era. And it never forgets to have fun. The dream sequences are wild. You can tell the director, Joseph Rubin, was swinging for the fences here. He's the same guy who later made The Stepfather and True Believer. But honestly, Dreamscape deserves way more love than it gets. And also shout out to Max von Sydow showing up again. Guy was everywhere. Iceman sits right between science fiction and anthropology. It's about a team of scientists who thaw out a prehistoric man frozen in ice and bring him back to life. They name him Charlie. Timothy Hutton plays Dr. Stanley Shepard, the scientist who actually connects with Charlie on a human level, not just as a science experiment. And the real standout here is John Lone, who plays Charlie. He's not just grunting and pointing, he brings this real fear and sensitivity to the character, and that makes him feel like an actual person, not just some caveman trope. It wasn't easy to sell, no huge stars, no crazy action scenes, but it's smart, well acted, and it holds up way better than a lot of what was hitting theaters at the time. Definitely worth a watch if you're into sci-fi that actually makes you think. Most people know this one because it was Natalie Wood's last movie before her death, which brought a ton of unwanted attention. She died before the film was finished. It was ruled an accident, but conspiracy theories have been swirling ever since. And honestly, the drama kind of overshadowed the movie itself, which is a shame because Brainstorm is actually a pretty solid sci-fi film. Scientists invent a machine that can record human experiences and emotions, and then play them back so someone else can feel exactly what you felt. Christopher Walken plays Dr. Michael Brace, and Natalie Wood plays his estranged wife, Karen. Things take a dark turn when a scientist records her own death, and Walken's character tries to use the machine to figure out what happens after you die. It's a wild concept, not just recording memories, but recording consciousness. The movie goes deep on the ethics, asking whether messing with experiences this way changes what it means to be human. It's the classic what's real and what isn't sci-fi question, but here it's about actually living someone else's reality. Now, if you like sci-fi and westerns, Outland is basically a gift. It's been called High Noon in Space, and the comparison's pretty spot on. Sean Connery plays a marshal assigned to a mining colony on one of Jupiter's moons. The miners work brutal hours under terrible conditions, and Connery's character stumbles onto a drug-smuggling ring that's putting lives at risk. Classic setup. Lone lawman versus corrupt system. Only now, it's in space. Connery's doing what Connery does, playing the tough, no-nonsense hero. But Frances Sternhagen deserves a shout-out too. She plays the colony's sarcastic, no-bullshit medic, and her back-and-forth with Connery is one of the best parts of the movie. Peter Boyle shows up too, playing a total scumbag. When it came out, though, audiences weren't really feeling it. It flopped at the box office, and reviews were kind of mixed. Some people thought it was too slow, and yeah, it's not a space opera, it's a slow-burn thriller, but that's also what makes it stand out. This one is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi from New Zealand that honestly doesn't get talked about enough. Bruno Lawrence plays Zach Hobson, a scientist who wakes up one day and realizes he might be the last person left on Earth. If that sounds familiar, it should. It's the same kind of setup we've seen in stuff like I Am Legend or Z for Zachariah. But The Quiet Earth brings its own style to it. It's not just about survival, it's about what total isolation does to your mind. Bruno Lawrence completely carries the film. When you have a story with almost no other people around, you need someone who can actually keep you watching, and he nails it. The movie turns into a psychological drama more than anything, watching him lose it slowly and start asking, what's the point of surviving if you're the only one left? Even Neil deGrasse Tyson gave it props, saying it was one of the first times he saw a character in a sci-fi movie who was actually fluent in real science and engineering. He even put it in his top 10 sci-fi films of all time. The Lathe of Heaven is one of those great sci-fi movies that got buried because it was made for TV. It's based on Ursula Le Guin's novel, and it's all about George, a guy whose dreams can actually change reality. Every time he falls asleep, the world shifts, and not always for the better. His psychiatrist, Dr. Haber, figures it out and starts trying to use George's dreams to fix the world, but you already know that's going to go sideways fast. It tackles some pretty heavy themes: free will, morality, what happens when you try to control destiny. It's not flashy, the effects are pretty basic, and the budget was super low. But honestly, that makes it even better. It's all about the ideas, not the visuals. Entertainment Weekly even put it in their top 100 sci-fi works. And they were right. It's slow, it's thoughtful, and if you like your sci-fi smart, this one's worth tracking down. There was a remake in the late 90s with James Caan and Lisa Bonet, but it couldn't capture what the original had. If you're going to watch it, stick with the 1980 version. This one's easily one of the most underrated sci-fi action flicks of the 80s. It kicks off like a regular cop movie, robbery, car chase, shootout, but then it flips into something way weirder. Turns out the criminal isn't human, it's an alien parasite that jumps from body to body. You've got Michael Nouri as the cop and Kyle MacLachlan as the FBI agent helping him. Except MacLachlan's character has a few secrets of his own. There's a lot more going on under the surface. Director Jack Sholder made this movie for a pretty low budget, but it never feels cheap. The action scenes are solid, tons of car chases, shootouts, and the practical effects still hold up. But it's not just a dumb action movie. There's some clever stuff going on about identity and what really makes someone who they are. Plus, the alien villain jumping from host to host keeps things unpredictable. You never know who's going to turn next. This movie follows an alien who crash lands on Earth. He looks human, but he's mute. And he just happens to look like an ordinary black man, played by Joe Morton, who, by the way, gives an incredible performance without saying a single word. He manages to say more with his face and body language than most actors can with pages of dialogue. And the way the film flips between being funny, weird, and dead serious is what really makes it work. The movie's set in Harlem, and that's not by accident. It's not just a fish-out-of-water story. It's a full-on commentary about what it's like to be an outsider, about racism, immigration, class, all without hitting you over the head. Sayles was always about telling stories from the margins, way before diversity became a buzzword. And he didn't just cast people to check boxes, he was genuinely interested in other communities. This movie shows that in a way that still feels real today. Finally, Altered States. And yeah, it's not super underrated because it's got a cult following now, but it's still one of the most insane sci-fi movies ever made. Directed by Ken Russell and starring William Hurt in one of his first major roles. Hurt plays a scientist who's obsessed with figuring out the meaning of life. So naturally, he decides the best way to do that is by locking himself in a sensory deprivation tank and dosing himself with hallucinogens. It starts out as science, and then goes completely off the rails. His experiments mess with his mind and his body to the point where he starts physically regressing, like full-on de-evolving. The hallucination scenes are nuts, trippy, intense, and kind of terrifying. The whole movie's ambitious and weird. And yeah, sometimes it feels like it's on the edge of falling apart. But that's what makes it great. Russell wasn't afraid to get messy with big ideas, and William Hurt completely commits to the role.